How's it going, everyone? As always, God bless you and thank you for being here. I'm Gage and this is Candy Coral Aquatics. If you're new here, go ahead and hit the subscribe button and tap the notification bell because you just found the only place that you ever need to be to have all your reefing questions answered. If you're not new and you're back for more, I just want to say thank you very much for the support and for being here. Today's topic of discussion is going to be a pretty popular one, and I think it would bring a lot of controversy. So if you were to go onto YouTube and type this in, you'd find thousands of videos of everybody giving you what they think is best and their opinion. So this is just going to be me throwing my hat into the ring, giving you guys my opinion. So today's topic is going to be feeding your tank. So what are we feeding? How are we feeding? And what really is the purpose of feeding? Well, I think that this can be answered a multitude of different ways, and it's really going to depend upon what you're trying to accomplish in your system. Most people just feed their fish, which is fine, and other people go the extra step and feed coral as well. So that's what we're going to be dissecting and discussing today. So is it appropriate or necessary to feed your coral? Well, a lot of the reefing community will tell you no, this is not something that you have to do. I absolutely 100% think you should be. I think there's a lot of benefits from it. I think biologically speaking, if we're feeding our coral, the extra nutrients that we're getting from the food that we're feeding them can only be beneficial in helping their biological processes of not only growing and reproducing, but also fighting off any other, bacterial infections or diseases that they could succumb to. More nutrients is just more power. Now, when we're talking about our fish, obviously we have to be feeding our fish, but let's face it, sometimes the fish don't eat all the food that we put in there. So even when people tell you that they don't feed their coral, they really might be feeding their coral and not realizing it. So let's talk about the few places that food goes. So number one, a very large portion, let's just call it 80% for easy numbers, is probably going to go to our fish. Okay, 80% is going to go to our fish. Anything that the fish doesn't eat out of that leftover 20%, I would say probably a good 10 to 15% of it your cleanup crew is going to find. And then the rest of it is probably either just going to get broken down in the water column and become excess nutrients, or your corals may capture and consume it depending on how many you have and what kind you have in your tank. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to show you guys one way that I feed my tank, and we're just going to kind of discuss what I'm feeding and the benefits that I see from it and kind of how I do it. So the first thing that I do when I feed my tank, whether I'm feeding my fish or just my corals, is what I will do is shut off all the pumps. Okay, so the filtration is off, the protein skimmer is off, and the only thing I will run is a power head just to kind of help distribute the food around the tank. Now, there's two main ways that people feed. Number one is broadcast, and I think by far the most popular of what you will be seeing people do. And then the second one are for the reefers that really want to take time and want to actually feed their corals by hand, and that's going to be a spot feeding or a target feeding, as it is also known as. So today I'm going to show you guys a slurry that I've kind of invented myself. It's nothing super fancy, and really anybody can do it, even if you're on a budget. So here's the container of food that I have. So what I've got in here, it kind of looks gross, but I've got a combination of A and B coral nutrition from Red Sea. So this is going to give the corals a really good boost, of, carbohydrates, fatty acids, proteins, stuff like that. Then I've got some mysis shrimp in here, which is going to be for the fish and, anything else that can capture it. And then I also put in probably about a half a teaspoon of reefroids. So it kind of gives us this little slushy slurry of all this wholesome goodness that we're going to be adding to the tank. Now, I do both methods, which are broadcast and spot feeding, but I really only feed my corals probably once a week directly, and then the majority of their other nutrients just comes from what's floating around in the water. And then probably once a week I will just do what I'm about to do, which is just a broadcast feed for everybody. So let's go ahead and do that, and you'll kind of see what this looks like. So we're just going to add this to the tank. And, don't worry too much. It's going to cloud everything up. The fish are freaking out for a second here, and then they're going to be like, oh, okay, food, we're good. Just going to mix this around, make sure we're getting everything out here. All right, so that's what it looks like. The yellow tang kind of spazzed out for a second here. He's pretty new to the tank, so, I'm not gonna give him too much. Hold on here. Where is he? Okay. Yeah, we're not gonna pressure him too much. I mean, he is new to the tank, so he's still a little bit skittish, so we can't really make fun of him that much. Just making sure he's doing okay. Yeah, he's fine. And then the clowns, they've been here for a long, long time, so they kind of know what the deal is. But that's kind of what my broadcast feed is going to look like. I really don't do that all that often. I might do it once a week. I don't really add a lot of the A and B to the system. I think I'm going to start to do that, though, just simply because it can only be beneficial. But as I'm doing this, there's a lot of food in the tank, which is okay to be doing as long as, you have the fish and the cleanup crew and the means of removing any excess nutrients from the tank. As soon as I add this stuff to the tank, I start seeing crabs come out of the rock work, whereas before, you didn't even know that they were there. The shrimp start going crazy. I mean, everybody's just excited because there's lots of good stuff in the water. The coral tentacles will start to come out. Another thing that I actually like to add, which I should have added before I started the video, but I forgot, is Polyp Booster by Polyp Lab. So this does do a pretty good job. When I first bought this, people were telling me just how crazy it was. Like, oh my gosh, I saw so much polyp extension on my coral, blah, 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 blah. I didn't have that experience. Does it help? Sure, but I don't think that it's as remarkable as everybody says that it is. But even if it's not really contributing to excess polyp extension, it is something in the water column that is nutritious for the coral. If we actually look at the ingredients here, let's see here, crude protein is 13%, moisture is 80%. Let's see what this is here. Made in the purest ingredients and filtered to achieve the most concentrated product possible. Polyp Booster is packaged with 18 essential amino acids and 12 fatty acids. So basically it is, let's see here, see if it'll actually tell us what it is. Broad spectrum of nutritional compounds promotes intense coloration, better growth, and increased longevity in your aquarium inhabitants. Polyp Booster's innovative formula can trigger a feeding response in corals, crustaceans, inverts, and fish in under 30 seconds. So I would say that I probably do see that, I guess, in the crustaceans, the inverts and stuff. As far as the corals themselves, I don't know. Like, I don't have a ton of, big polypy coral in here. I just notice, when I put any kind of food in the water whatsoever, my large open brains down in the right-hand corner that my clowns seem to be hosted on, I do notice a feeding response in them, especially the neon green one, that toxic green one down there. But other than that, I don't really have corals that are going to have these huge polyps opening up on them. My two SPSs, their polyps are always out, so I can't really say. But what I am going to do is I'm just going to shake this up, and I am going to add, probably a pipette and a half to the water column, just because it really is good amino acids. It's essential stuff. It's crude proteins, a lot of photoplankton, I guess, is what they're using in this. So we're just going to add it to the system here. It can only be beneficial. So I know what a lot of you are probably going to be thinking is, oh my gosh, that's way too much food. His nutrients are probably off the chart. Actually, I'm trying to raise my nutrients. My water is probably a little too clean right now. My nitrates and phosphates are pretty much non-existent. This is not something I'm doing on a daily basis, you guys. I really am only doing it maybe once a week. Sometimes I skip, a week entirely. As far as the spot feeding goes, where I'm actually directing food to the coral themselves, what I will do with that is I will mix up the combination of the A and B from Red Sea, which I showed you guys today, and then I will put reefroids in it, and I will spray the zoas, I will spray the pallies, I will spray, my open brains. Basically, really, I'll spray everything that's in the tank with this stuff, whether it's capable of ingesting it or not. It's hard to say. Some of it does. Most all of it does. Most everything in here will actually ingest what you give it. But, I honestly think that I have seen a lot better coral growth, especially in my zoanthids, from feeding my corals. The rest of the stuff, my brains got bigger. My blastos over there, where the fish are gathered right now, those did start pumping out more heads. It could be all coincidence, anecdotal stuff, but like I said in the beginning of the video, guys, more nutrition is just more power for your corals. So that's how I feed. That's kind of what I've been using. The Mysis shrimp, the Coral Nutrition A and B from Red Sea, the Reefroids from Polyp Labs, and then the Polyp Booster, which I really don't use all that often. And then the only other thing that I've been adding to the tank is Lugol solution. Okay, so this is an iodine solution by Kent Marine. The reason I've been adding that is if you have any type of soft corals in the tank, or, crustaceans, shrimp, things of that nature, you really should be adding iodine regularly. Iodine is something that all these corals need. Well, soft corals, I guess all corals really benefit from it. I'm pretty sure anemones also really benefit from it as well. But your softer corals, your palides, your zoas, they all have to have iodine. And of course, like I said, your crustaceans as well, your cleanup crew, shrimps and things. There is iodine in the salt mixes that we use. However, it's probably not enough to really do much, and it probably gets absorbed or, you know, pulled out of the water fairly quickly, especially if you have a pretty large stock tank. So I've been adding this about 1 drop every couple of days, and I believe that I have, over the course of the last 2 weeks, I have seen the difference. My zoas open up more now than they ever have. So I think that in itself shows that it's working. What I'm going to try to do right now is I'm going to try to show you guys the feeding response I have on this brain coral down in the right hand corner here. So let's just tool over here, and right there you can actually see it. See if we can get a little closer here. There's the feeding response. Okay, the feeding tentacles are coming out, and it's capturing whatever it kind of can. So this is why it's super important, if you're going to do a broadcast feed, it's crucial that you put all sorts of different sizes of food in there, okay? All sorts of different microns and stuff, because if we're not doing that and we're just putting in large, meaty food, a lot of your other coral in the tank is not going to benefit from that. Now, the brain coral will absolutely capture and consume large, meaty foods, but, you know, your palides, your SPSs, acropores and stuff, they're not going to do that. They need very fine particulate for food, which is why I think a slurry of just a combination of 2 or 3 different things that are all relatively inexpensive is really your best bet. When we're talking about price, you don't have to do everything that I'm doing, but let's say you wanted to copy this. If you're looking at the Coral Nutrition A and B, it's been a while since I bought it. I mean, this stuff lasts a long time. You're probably, on average, you're probably going to spend about 12 or 13 bucks a bottle. Let's just call it $28 for the 2. If we're looking at the Polyp Labs, I paid $22 for this bottle. It's a large bottle. And then if we're looking at the iodine solution, that is $15 a bottle. But I mean, you use such very little amounts of that it's going to last you a really long time. Mysis shrimp, you guys should know what that costs. I mean, it's different everywhere. It's like what, like, I don't know, $7-8, something like that. It's pretty cheap. And then the Reefroids, I actually gotta dig those out and see what I paid. I think it was like $16 or something like that. Okay, $15, and this is the 30 gram nano size. Okay, so this is, let me get this to focus here. That's the nano size, 30 grams. Okay, they have a large container. I have had this for a very long time. I mean, well over a year, probably 2 years I've had this. So, I mean, it doesn't get any cheaper than that. And I've still got probably about a little less than a half container full. And to be honest with you, I don't even really remember where it was when I first opened it. So call it maybe a half a container. But yeah, I mean, obviously this is all going to be different for you depending on how much you're feeding, how often you're feeding, you know, that kind of stuff. So it will be different for each case. But that's kind of what I've been doing. And, you know, everything benefits from it. I think it's absolutely essential to feed your corals if you want the absolute best overall health, coloration, and growth. It's only going to make things happier. And then by doing it this way, everybody in your tank is benefiting. Like, I'm seeing multiple feeding responses from my corals right now. Everybody's benefiting. All my cleanup crew is getting fed. You know, anything that is left over because it was a large dump into the tank, you know, it's just going to help with the bacteria that's in there. It's going to help with your cleanup crew. And in my case, it's going to help get my water a little bit dirtier, because you really do want to have some nitrates and some phosphates in the water. So I hope this has been beneficial. I hope you guys learned something. And if you guys have any questions, please drop them down below. I would love to hear how I'm doing. Take care. And as always, happy reefing and God bless.